Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Jake Norton here from jakenorton.com and the Undefined blog. I hope you're doing well and just wanted to give you an update not only on the virtual Mount Everest, but on Everest as a whole and Nepal as a whole. First, let's go to Nepal. As you may have heard or know, the second wave of COVID that's been devastating India has made its way in a big way into Nepal and is really wreaking havoc there. To me, this is far more important than anybody walking up a lump of snow and rock, even if it happens to be called Mount Everest. Um, this tragedy is playing out in slow motion, real time right now. Most experts say it's going to be far more devastating than the 2015 earthquake over the long haul, far more casualties and economic devastation. It's really tragic. So stay tuned here and on my social media channels and to the Undefined blog. I'll be posting in the future, in the next few days, ways we can all get involved and help with the tragedy that's unfolding in Nepal right now. Again, it's really, really bad, and I think we all should help if we can. At the very least, let's keep the people of Nepal in our thoughts as days go on. So back on the Mount Everest front, it sounds like the Chinese actually did have a team on the north side this year, and they decided to cancel that. Fear of transmission from people on the south of COVID-19. That would have been, I think, pretty unlikely because you'd have to meet and probably hug up on the summit. But nonetheless, they decided to pull the plug, play it safe, which my hat's off to them for doing so. And some teams have done the same on the south side, where it sounds like things are actually a lot worse in reality than has been reported. I've heard through the grapevine of lots of people being evacuated to Kathmandu, some in critical care facilities, and yeah, it doesn't sound great. And the scarier, bigger picture story is that all these people who work on the mountain, all the Nepalis, are soon going to go back home to their villages, where most of them tend to live in multi-generational families with parents and grandparents, and they very likely could be bringing COVID and various variants back to their homes and villages. So again, bigger stories than walking up a mountain this year. But that said, I have opened up the Everest tour to all altitudes, all the way up to the summit. So let's hop over there now and take a peek. So again, this is the opening view from the Pangla Pass, where the 1921 reconnaissance expedition got their first view of the mountain back in 1921. George Mallory was a part of that. And if you haven't already done so, zoom in on this. Sorry, my computer, I'm on my laptop today and it's chugging a little bit trying to render all of this. But if you haven't spent much time on this panorama, definitely do so. Looking from Makalu in the east, across past Lhotse, Everest, Nuptse, and just tons of mountains here, information on all of them, and then past Gyachung Kong and over to Cho Oyu. And, again, you can open up pictures and hotspots and get more information about all these different peaks and places. But let's zoom back out and let's climb the mountain a little bit here. So now that we're open all the way to the summit, if you're climbing from Tibet, you'd come in this way, you'd go over the Pangla Pass in a Jeep, rumbling over one of the highest roads in the world, and then eventually get to Rongbuk Base Camp. So again, here's that view from Rongbuk, and I'm just turning off the sound here. So we've got a ton of cool information and views here. From here, we can move on up to what I call Rongbuk Lake, one of the superglacial lakes on the Rongbuk Glacier, definitely causing problems with climate change. So this is just a short walk out of base camp. This is a 360, so we can go all the way around, but let's continue on up to essentially Camp 1. Camp 1 was what the British used in the pre-World War II era. They actually placed two camps between base camp and advanced base camp. We're looking up the main central Rongbuk Glacier, which branches up here, and the West Rongbuk going off to the right. Some cool information. If you click on the Guangming Peak hotspot, you'll get to see some photos that Bentley Beetham took back in 1924 showing the change in the glacier over time. we'll move up here, up that kind of hidden east fork of the Rongbuk Glacier. That was discovered in 1921, first by Oliver Wheeler, the surveyor, and then also by Mallory and Bullock. They figured out that it had to be there. So this is essentially Camp 2. We're actually a little bit higher than Camp 2 was in the pre-World War II era. This is what we call interim camp today. And then move up again a bit further up to what I call the lower trough view, looking out at just an amazing selection of peaks here. I mean, there's so many, and again, that 35 expedition did the first ascents of almost all of these. So now we'll move up further up the mountain, up the glacier, to a big view of Advanced Base Camp, looking out at Lac Paris and Cartefu, over at a peak above the Rapu La Pass, which sits just out of view here. You've got the whole Northeast Ridge Direct that was first attempted by Bonington, and Boardman and Tasker famously lost their lives up here in the pinnacles. And from this viewpoint, we've got a few different options. You can zoom in here on the northeast face view to really get routes and information about the northeast face. We can hop up here to the Eagle's Nest view, which is where John Knoll shot from back in 1924, but I'll let you all do that, and let's go up to Midway Point on the North Col headwall. You can see the route that we climb up, some climbers there in the foreground. Kellis Rock Peak out here, named after Alexander Kellis, who died in 1921 on the mountain. And then from there, we can click this arrow and we can go to a view a bit further up the North Col headwall. So now we're up a bit higher. This is roughly the area where the avalanche occurred back in 1922 that sadly ended the expedition. First climbing deaths on Mount Everest. 7 Nepali and Tibetan porters were killed tragically in an avalanche on that day. Again, looking out to the Rapu La and Lac Paris and the Lac Pala passes. Lots of different information here. We can zoom out and again find the arrow here, and we'll go up to the North Col to a view looking south from the North Col. Across the sweeping north face, you've got some info here on the Greater Norton Couloir, no relation to me, unfortunately. You've also got the West Ridge route from 1963 and some peaks out in Nepal there. And then we can continue moving from the North Col. Right out here from just beyond where I took this photo, this was taken back in 2004, you enter what's called the Barrier of Gales. You can be really protected at the North Col, but you step out onto the North Ridge and just get hammered by winds sometimes. So notice the wind pick up there in the background. That may be a bit loud, so I'm going to turn it off again. There we go. So this is a view from Camp 5 on the North Ridge looking west. You can see the North Col down here, and looking out across Gyachung Kong and Cho Yu and Nizumpa Kong 1, 2, and 3. And if you click on here, you'll see a video about wind at Camp 5, a place that can get very windy. And again, all of these panoramas you can zoom in to see more detail. So let's move on up and we'll go to Camp 6. Incredible camp up at Camp 6, not the most luxurious of places. It's pretty harsh. You're up at, you're higher than all but 5 other peaks in the world, up at 8,300 meters, higher than Cho Yu, which is 8,200 meters. But again, fantastic views out here. And I love it from up at this camp because you really can actually see down the whole route. This is base camp right here. You can see out to the Pang La, down to Camp 2 down here, and the trough you can see running on this medial moraine. So really a pretty amazing camp and place up here. And from here you can move around the mountain as well. You can drop down to Pumori Camp 1 view if you wanted to. But why don't we keep climbing up the Northeast Ridge? So we're going to click this and we're going to basically turn around 180 degrees and look at the Northeast Ridge crest. This panorama I took back in 2004 when I was on a Mallory and Irvin search expedition with my friend Dave Hahn. So you can really get pretty up close and personal with the first step, the second step, the third step, and then of course the summit pyramid. But there's a bit more to check out along in here, so let's go up and we're going to move up to the 1933 Camp 6. In 1933, they put their high camp even higher. The 1924 high camp was right about here when Brent Okita and I found it back in 2001. So now we're at the 1933 high camp. It's in the middle of the yellow band. Some fun stories that go along with that. There's some good video on the story of Old Biscuits. Looking down, this is where we found George Mallory in 1999. And again, you could move all around. You can jump back to Pumori Camp 1 view. Tons of peaks out here to learn more about Himalchuli, Yangra Kangri, also called Ganesh 1 and Manaslu. So lots of interesting things to move around on here. And now if we move a little bit further, we can go down actually. This is the Longland Traverse here. So we can go down onto the Longland Traverse. And check things out there, but I won't go to that. Let's move along over here and we'll go, and you see how these are all highlighted. These are all places that we've been already. So we've got the Longland Traverse. Let's go up to the Warts View East. So the Warts are just off the main climbing route, and this is looking east. I kind of bellied up on one of these massive cornices overhanging the Kangshung face, which you can drop down to here if you want to go check out the Kangshung face view, the east face of Everest. And this is looking out into the Warts. So if we click here, we can go to the north view. So this is looking from the Warts out to the north. You can see the Longland Traverse down here, hotspot to take you to that node. More information here, video that I shot in 2019 of working our way through the Warts. And now we can go back to that east view. So again, there's just a lot in here. We can also go to the Warts View West. And looking at my friend Sid Pattison here, gazing around, you can see Ken Sauls over in this direction. He was a good friend and a cameraman on this expedition in 2019. Tons of data to check out. But let's again move a little bit further up. So from all these different Warts views, unfortunately I didn't take any panoramas in my summit expeditions over the years above the Warts. So we're going to just move on up to a summit view here. So now here we are. We're up at the summit of Everest. This shot was taken on May 30th, 2003 on my second summit of Mount Everest. And you're looking out here to the east. This is the Kangshung Glacier. Again, you can drop down to the Kangshung face view. Looking out, Kanchenjunga is here. Lots of other peaks. The Amadrime Massif, Makalu, Chomolunzo. Then moving across Nuptse and Nuptse Middle. And you've got Chamlang, Barunse. Tons of peaks here. So again, lots of different views. And then we can, of course, get another view from the summit of Mount Everest. So let's go over to the summit ridge looking south. I actually took this on my first summit of Everest back in 2002. I think it was May 18th of that year. So looking at Lhotse, Lhotse Middle, Lhotse Shar, it was a bit of a cloudy day. The storms actually swept in just moments after Karma, Rita, and I were on the summit, and I took this photo. They came up quite quickly. So that's going up the northeast ridge of Everest. You've already seen a lot of the southeast ridge in previous videos. So let's go up to some of the views that we haven't talked about yet here. First off, let's go over, this is from when I attempted the West Ridge with my friends Dave Morton, Charlie Mace, and Brent Bishop back in 2012. The 63 West Ridge route actually went out this direction and out essentially to the west shoulder. We tried a more direct route in 2012, but we didn't get all that far. There's Dave Morton down below me, mainly because of conditions on the route, but you really get an incredible view of the Western Coombe and the Lhotse face. And you can see the Lhotse Couloir and the route up to the South Col. And we can go a little bit higher. This was actually Dave Morton and my high point back in 2012, the expedition high point. We made it up almost to the West Ridge itself, and for various reasons didn't make it any further. But so there's Dave up there. Let's hop on over to Camp 3. So we're here at Camp 3. You all, I think, have seen this view before, and we've been up to the South Col as well. I had that open last week. So here's the view from the South Col. Don't forget, if you haven't already, to check out not only the 360 view from the east edge of the South Col, but also check out the Eastern Steppe Eagle. That's kind of fascinating, at least it is to me. But now you've got the 1953 climbing route, the contemporary climbing route, the balcony is here. But let's move up a little bit further, because these are views that haven't been open to anybody but my subscribers and supporters, or those who purchased the unlock code. But now the whole thing is unlocked. So let's go up to just below the south summit. This was taken by me it's bouncing around a bit, in 2009, as we climbed up on sunrise in 2009. I forget the date now. I believe it was May 17th. I don't really care too much about all those dates for my personal summits, but kind of cool. You can see down here, this is the American buttress that was climbed by the Americans, obviously, back in the 80s. So you can see the top edges of that there. And again, looking out at different, there's Peak 38 and Shartse and Makalu, and then Kanchenjunga out catching the first rays of sunrise, and again, the Amadrime Massif. So fun view here. Again, this is just below the south summit. So let's now move a little bit higher. So from the south summit, this is one of my favorite views in the whole tour. This is looking down a pretty cool view. So this, again, in 2009, I got up the Hillary Step, went up here and took a few frames. So this is looking down. These guys are just on top of the Hillary Step and kind of traversing around and through it. The Hillary Step has changed thanks to the earthquake in 2015. I haven't been there since, but apparently a lot of it fell off. But it's amazing. You look at these cornices. I mean, they're just massive, overhanging the Kangshung face. You can see over here, this is the Russian route that went up on the first attempt of Lhotse Middle. Pretty amazing. And again, just wonderful peak views here. You're looking at this dramatic ridge of Nuptse going all along. You can see the Scott route on the north ridge of Nuptse, and tons of peaks and viewpoints to dig into. And of course, from here, then we can continue on to the summit. And if you haven't already, don't forget to go down to the lower valley views too. I've got several panoramas from down in the valleys of Nepal. This is actually from Dingboche, one of the higher villages in the Khumbu Valley. And you can get a lot more information. Like if you look at this hotspot here, this polygon hotspot, this is actually the south face of Lhotse, and you'll get a ton of information here about one of the most legendary faces in the Himalaya. So tons to look at, as always. Maybe an overload of data here, but it's a lot of fun. I hope you all will continue to explore and enjoy it. And a quick note here too, I'm in the process of building out another elevation section, again, for my subscribers and supporters, and those of you who have purchased the unlock key for the Everest tour. What I'm going to include over the next week or so is the satellite imagery that I've worked off of over time, that looks at Mount Everest from a satellite view. It's pretty spectacular imagery, insane resolution. And I want to share those because there's a lot of information I can put in there from a different perspective that I think helps shed light on, especially the early pre-war expeditions and the modern expeditions. It's also just a really cool look, cool viewpoint. And I'd also love to kind of crowdsource some information gathering. I've looked and studied these high-res satellite shots for evidence of Mallory Irvin, but my eye isn't always as good as everyone else's, so I'd love other people to take a peek. I'll share information in places where I think I'm seeing something and where we found things in the past, and would love to get people's feedback and information. So look for those to come. Again, enjoy the virtual Mount Everest tour. It's a heck of a lot safer and more comfortable to climb it this way. Trust me, after 8 expeditions, I know the discomfort of the real Mount Everest, but also the beauty, and hopefully you'll get to experience some of the beauty and the intrigue of the mountain through the virtual Mount Everest tour. Enjoy. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, please share this outward. Leave Leave me comments if you have questions about anything you're seeing on the tour, and be well. Take care. Bye.